Massive crowd turn up for Alex Eala's match only to return disappointed. Dubai. Perhaps even the Australian Open organizers didn't foresee what was about to unfold. When Filipino star Alexander Eala was scheduled to play on Court 6, hundreds of fans poured into Melbourne Park, with queues stretching back toward Rod Laver Arena. In a city with a strong Filipino community, a huge turnout to witness the 20-year-old's Australian Open main draw debut felt inevitable. The decision to place Eala on a mid-sized court quickly drew scrutiny, particularly as match time approached and the queues swelled into the thousands. Many arrived hours early, fearing they might miss out, and many did. Unable to gain entry, they settled for packed outdoor viewing areas, watching on big screens. Frustration soon followed. Many believed the chaos could have been avoided by scheduling the match on a larger show court. Putting Eala on Court 6 is just dumb, tennis journalist Jose Morgado wrote, a sentiment echoed widely across social media and throughout Melbourne Park. Inside Court 6, however, the atmosphere was unforgettable. Every Eala point sparked wild celebrations. Philippine flags filled the stands, chants of "Let's go, Alex" rang out, and even routine exchanges were met with deafening roars that rippled across the grounds. From the seating to the courtside bar and baseline ledges, there was not a single empty spot. Eala surged through the opening set against Alicia Parks, taking it 6-0. But the lower-ranked American steadied and mounted a comeback, eventually claiming a 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 victory despite the overwhelmingly pro-Eala crowd. The umpire repeatedly appealed for quiet as fans attempted, unsuccessfully, to will Eala to victory. Eala was swiftly escorted from the court by heavy security, surrounded by as many as a dozen guards. "It was so heartwarming," she said of the hero's welcome she received throughout the week. "That's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder. I know a lot of people were rooting for me." While Eala has helped put Philippine tennis firmly on the map, she admitted the attention had sometimes been overwhelming. "It's a process to take it all in," she said. "This week there were definitely elements that were a bit overwhelming, especially during my practices. I didn't expect that many people to be there, so it's a learning process." Now ranked 49th, Eala's rise over the past year has been rapid. She trains at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca and cracked the top 100 last season after a stunning semifinal run in Miami, where she defeated world number 2 Iga Swiatek. At last year's US Open, she made history by becoming the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam singles match. "I'm still young, learning how to deal with all of this attention, but also being grateful," Eala said after her loss to the 99th ranked Parks. Despite the disappointment, she stressed the broader significance of her presence at the season's first major. "This is one of those moments where I can reflect on what this means for Philippine tennis," she said. "I'm the only Filipina in the draw this year, and I think the only Filipina who's ever been in the draw. So there are definitely positives to take away." They came early, hours before the first serve, as if arriving late might somehow steal a piece of history from them. From the gates of the stadium to the narrow streets beyond, the crowd flowed like a restless tide. Families wrapped in flags, students clutching homemade banners, elderly fans leaning on canes but refusing to miss what they believed would be a defining moment. The name Alex Eala hummed through the air, whispered with pride, shouted with hope, printed boldly on shirts and cardboard signs. For many, this was not just a tennis match, it was a promise. The sun climbed steadily, baking the concrete stands and casting sharp shadows across the court. Vendors shouted over one another, selling cold drinks and warm memories in the making. Cameras flashed. Phones were held high. Somewhere in the crowd, a child practiced a forehand swing, imagining the roar that would follow a winning point. When Alex finally walked onto the court, the stadium erupted. The sound was not merely loud, it was emotional. It carried years of waiting, of late-night matches watched on small screens, of believing that one of their own could stand tall on the world stage. People rose to their feet, clapping until their palms stung, waving flags that snapped in the hot air. For a moment, it felt like nothing could go wrong. The first serve cut cleanly through the air. At the start, there was hope in every rally. Each return drew gasps. Each long exchange pulled the crowd forward in their seats. When Alex won her first game, the applause thundered, rolling across the stands like a storm breaking at sea. Strangers hugged. Some wiped away tears they did not bother to hide. But tennis, like life, is merciless in its honesty. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the rhythm shifted. A double fault here. A netted forehand there. The opponent grew steadier, quieter, her movements efficient and unflinching. The points began to tilt away, not dramatically, but persistently, like sand slipping through fingers no matter how tightly one tries to hold on. The cheers softened. People still clapped, still called out Alex's name, but the sound changed. It became pleading rather than celebratory, hopeful rather than confident. Every lost point drew a collective wince. Every missed opportunity felt personal. In the stands, conversations stopped. Phones lowered. Eyes fixed on the court as if staring harder might change the outcome. Alex fought. That much was undeniable. She chased impossible balls, stretched for returns that scraped the very edge of reach, clenched her fist after rare winners as if trying to pull strength from the gesture itself. Sweat darkened her shirt, and frustration flickered briefly across her face before being replaced by resolve. She did not give up, even when the numbers on the scoreboard grew cruel. But effort alone does not always bend fate. The final set unfolded with a quiet inevitability. The crowd sensed it before the match point arrived, the way one senses rain before it falls. The energy that once crackled through the stadium settled into a heavy stillness. When the last ball landed out, the silence lasted a heartbeat too long. Then came the applause. It was respectful. It was loyal. But it carried the unmistakable weight of disappointment. People clapped not in celebration, but in consolation, offering support the only way they could, even as their own hopes lay scattered like confetti after a parade that never quite began. Alex stood at the baseline, nodding toward the crowd. She raised her racket in acknowledgement, her smile small but sincere. In that moment, she looked younger than she had at the start of the match, as if the pressure of expectation had finally lifted, leaving behind only a player who had done her best and fallen short.